I was going to do this week's show a lot differently. I was going to do a lot of epic crossover stuff with my own show, and I was going to do a lot of woods hiking, and yeah, I kind of overed it this weekend. Just a little bit. But the show must go on. The show must go on, so we're going to continue the show the way I can do it. And this week on the show, we're talking about this. Yeah, we're still a gaming show, so stick with me. One of my local grocery stores has this aisle full of energy drinks, and this was on the shelf next to all the usual suspects. I bought it for the pre-pack show to use in a future episode, but when I saw this stuff, my first thought was, they'll put their camo on anything. So I challenged my viewers to come up with some of the oddest things that they could, and yep, Realtree is there. Couches, mixers, tuxedos and wedding gowns, baby cribs and coffins, literally cradle-to-grave stuff here. So when I did my research into this drink, I found something interesting. This energy drink isn't new, so several people have already reviewed it, and their feedback is actually really telling. I'm going to show you this one from Caffeine King's article because it sums up things nicely. This reader is attacking the reviewer based on the perception that the reviewer is city folk, and the drink is made for outdoorsy type people, and this guy just wouldn't understand. This was not just an insinuation, this was an outright attack. This was people saying to the poster, hey, you can't possibly enjoy this energy drink unless you're part of the lifestyle. Oh, what lifestyle you're asking? The Realtree lifestyle. So, what is the Realtree lifestyle? Well, it's hunting, it's small-town country traditions, it's camping with friends away from the city, it's family and God and the classic American values, and yeah, I know what you're going to say. It's just a camo pattern, but it's not. You're going to have to take this from somebody who lives in hunting country. This isn't just a camo pattern. I found this product and it sums up Wisconsin a little too well in November. I've got friends of mine who have asked for time off of work for deer season 2 years in advance, and they only barely got it. So wearing something like Realtree off-season is kind of a badge of honor to show your dedication to being an outdoors-type person. Recently, Realtree has been sort of extending a hand out to the city folk and saying, you can break out of your 9-to-5, come join us out in the country where things are simpler, slower paced, come on out with us. And they've been doing it on social media with hashtag campaigns, and they've been introducing lifestyle products instead of just, practical camo products. You might be saying, well, what does this have to do with gaming? We're getting there. 2 warnings before we continue. First, this is going to make some people angry, so you've been warned. Second, I am not a marketing professional, and if anything, I'm a layman when it comes to the deeper concepts, so consider this show an introduction, not a master's course. Proceed with caution. So let's talk about branding. This is a rather large concept that covers a lot of ground, but the best way I can boil it down is to talk about McDonald's. One branding agency actually put it best. They said McDonald's doesn't sell hamburgers, they sell McDonald's. Branding is selling an image of a company. It's making the brand name have inherent value for what it represents, so people will remember it favorably and seek it out. Or as this page puts it nicely, marketing a product is pushing it on people, branding of the company is pulling people in. Branding.
So let's let her rip. Let's land on the beaches and go all the way.
Although you can see it a lot better when it fails, like the new Coke disaster of 1985. Now, there have been a lot of postmortems done on this by people far more qualified than me, but here's the basics. Coca-Cola decided to change their soda formula in 1985. They made a big ad campaign about it, and the public rejected new Coke. Actually, rejected is not a strong enough word. How about mutiny? Yeah, that'll work.
California, they collected signatures. In Seattle, they set up a hotline.
Among other reasons for it, consumers felt betrayed. Now, that might sound like a strong way to put that, but it really isn't. I don't want to go into details because it's going to take more time than I really want to spend here, but if you got some time to kill, research New Coke and read all about it.
Simple fact is that all of the time and money and skill poured into consumer research on the new Coca-Cola could not measure or reveal the depth and abiding emotional attachment to original Coca-Cola felt by so many people.
This is sort of the core of branding because you're not just selling a product, you're selling a feeling, an emotion, a lifestyle, if you will. If done correctly, it feels organic. It's like meeting a friend. And companies have a lot of ways to do this, including outright manipulation. If you really want to feel sick to your stomach, do a casual search on emotional branding, and you're going to find articles, plural, about how to emotionally manipulate your customers and the reasons why you should do it. And these includes gems like, half the buying decisions are emotional, and people will rationalize an emotional decision later, so companies create emotional bonds with their customers. Or at least a perceived one. And they'll do this through advertising, social media, any way you can make the customer feel like they're family or at least appreciated. And they'll pull emotional heartstrings, or they'll personalize things to let the customer feel like they're part of a larger story, or they'll just outright kick you in the feels with puppies. The idea is to get a reaction from seeing something like a logo and just get people to act on that before they can think. Practical example. You just had an emotional response to this. I know you did. You're about as big a geek as I am. They reboot the franchise and they can still get an emotional response out of this. Okay. Now by comparison, unless you had a very long, very nostalgic drink, you have absolutely no knowledge of what this logo is and probably don't have an emotional response to it. That's the power of branding. The best case scenario is if you can get in with these customers. They'll happily do your work for you. And this is a concept called brand tribalism. And this is where your customers are also active promoters of your brand name, not to mention your best defenders. So let's go back to the Realtree and Caffeine King's article. The people who came in defending the energy drink, these are the tribalists. They're not really defending the drink. They're defending the Realtree brand. They identify with the values that Realtree represents, and because it's a core part of who they are. So to them, to attack even a fringe product is to directly attack the individual's lifestyle. So in effect, they're defending themselves from criticism. Kind of want to end the show right here and now. Mainly because I feel like everything I add after this is going to be sadoequine necrophilia. But I know better. So I guess I've kind of Trojan horsed in the actual discussion, so tally-ho. Why do people play World of Warcraft anymore? I'm serious, the game is dated, the graphics aren't the greatest, there are people who can walk a tune through a Stormwind blindfolded and never hit water, and everybody knows the fights, PvP is predictable, so why would you play WoW? Branding. It's the go-to MMO. Everyone plays WoW, or at least they've started there. WoW has positioned itself to be the thing non-gamers think about when they hear online gaming. How many games set out to be the WoW killer? Just about every big splash MMO that has failed that I can think of. WoW has this longevity, and they have consistency in their message to the players, and they've used their time to get the players invested. Now combine that with strong social ties that players create within guilds, the personal investment players make from grinding for hours, and the tribalist players who will defend their game at all costs. Yeah, Blizzard has the catbird seat here. I mean, hell, players will happily tattoo WoW symbols on their bodies because they want to be permanently associated with what World of Warcraft represents. Branding gives a product value, and it loans that value to other products with the branding on it. So people will happily pay more for a brand name item because of the perceived quality that the branding gives it. Why would people keep on paying $15 a month to play a dated MMO? Why play Hearthstone? People are going to be flooding theaters to watch Warcraft. Why? The same reasons. It's not about selling burgers, it's about selling the brand. You could argue that Blizzard has had a decade to set this up, and that's kind of part of it. Reliability and trust creates loyalty, and when customers feel that, they'll settle down, they'll put their roots down, and they'll start to defend what they think is their own choices. Yeah, about that. So how easy is it to manipulate people to think that they're making choices like this? It's easy. It's a little too easy. One of the points made by marketing companies is that you cannot be all things to all people. So you kind of need to pick your target audience, brand yourself to make yourself as appealing as possible to them, and then maybe later you convince other people that your lifestyle is cooler than theirs. So, for example, let's say you want to make a first-person shooter game, and you want to appeal to somewhat of a conservative type audience. Okay, you wrap your game around concepts of patriotism, honor, and glory, and so on, and you can build a franchise based on that. And then you can work in a little xenophobia, you've got a guaranteed hit. And then as people hype the product for you, you get more people to buy into your branding. And to that end, some companies actually court YouTubers, live streamers, and other personalities. If you can get in on their good side by appealing to their interests, they'll talk the product up to their fans, and the fans will buy into it. In this case, you're doing what a lot of other brands do, and this is called cross-promotion, associating your brand with an established one to get an immediate credibility with your target demographic. And before you say this doesn't happen, yeah, it does. We've covered this before. Alternatively, some companies try to do their own hype, but this really falls flat on its face because it comes off as manufactured. It kind of feels like your parents telling you that the food on your plate is really, really yummy. It's about as condescending too, but when it's done properly, good branding can sell any game sight unseen. And I can already hear a lot of people saying, oh, I never fall for that kind of thing. Oh, okay, fair enough. So let's take a quick informal poll, a quick show of hands. How many people pre-ordered Fallout 4 the moment that you saw the trailer on launch day? I rest my case. The day the trailer hit, my Twitter exploded with OMG Fallout 4 tweets and people falling all over themselves to pre-order it. Personally, I have never played any of the lead-up games, so I have no emotional attachment to Fallout as a series. So when I watched the trailer, my first thought was, oh hey, cool, somebody made a video game adaptation of A Boy and His Dog. Or A Boy and His Dog, A Boy and His Dog, or A Boy and His Dog. But I guess I'm in the minority. But this is what branding does for a company. Based on the brand name, the emotional ties to Fallout 1, and arguably in spite of Brotherhood of Steel in New Vegas, Fallout 4 was a top seller on Steam hours after the announcement, even though they didn't have a solid launch date at the time. Now I can say the same things about, like, Destiny. They basically sold the game on the branding of Bungie Studios, or, geez, how many games lately? The Assassin's Creed brand sold Unity, Far Cry, Borderlands, Halo, all arguably coasting on their brand names. To be honest, it's actually kind of frustrating, because at the time that it came out, everybody was swearing off a pre-order. We're never going to pre-order anything again! And then E3 came out, and everybody was like, pre-order all of the things! We keep doing it. And they know we're going to keep on doing it. And this is where I hit the threshold of frustration. Because I got nothing. This is why this episode is so frustrating to research and write. Because I can't just tell people, well, be aware of it and avoid it. Because we can't avoid it. Literally, we are being bombarded with branding everywhere we go. There are companies that exist only to help other companies with their branding decisions. It's a finely tuned machine that's designed to make companies feel like good friends of ours. You remember what I was talking about Realtree earlier? Its brand is about hunting, small-town country traditions, camping with friends away from the city, family and God, and classic American values. They have spent years cultivating this brand, so much so that putting the pattern on an energy drink will make hunters defend it like they defend their friend being pushed around in the bar. So with that in mind, when I hear game companies use terms like, well, we're building a community, or we have a long-term plan, or well, this game is for advanced players, I cringe because to me, these are buzzwords that scream, we are branding to suck you in. Combine that with Skinnerbox techniques and gamers spending part-time job hours playing a game. Yeah, I joke about Stockholm Syndrome, but there's more than a twinkle of truth there. I mean, if you do video game reviews and you talk about, say, Guild Wars 2, people will post walls of text saying, you are wrong and I will shout you down. Not because your opinion is invalid, but because your opinion threatens the brands that they bought into and, by extension, themselves. There's actually so much more that I want to say, but if I do, this show is easily going to be half an hour, if not longer. So instead, I'm just going to end with this. A lot of people say that I'm being negative or super jaded, and I can understand where you're coming from. I try not to be, but problem is, I can't deny reality anymore.